What's the darkest place in the universe? Is it a black hole? Or what about the surface of the moon? What is so dark on the moon? This celestial body has been reflecting the light of the sun onto the Earth for billions of years. It's been the main satellite of our planet for almost 4.5 billion years. But we know little about it. The moon doesn't have its own light source, so the only way it can be seen from Earth is due to the sun's rays reflecting off its surface. All these layers were supposed to generate a powerful magnetic field, which would explain why the solar wind couldn't blow through the moon. However, NASA's Lunar Prospector spacecraft discovered that the moon's core isn't iron-nickel but rather a sphere made of frozen magma. On October 23, 2020, NASA published photos taken by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that depict strange dark spots on the surface of the moon. In 2020, a total lunar eclipse occurred, which caused the moon to turn a deep red color. As you probably know, blood moons aren't something rare or unusual, but each of them is unique. But what if the next super blood dwarf moon will be the last one in your life? How long do humans live? For example, some of them can last up to an hour and a half. What else did NASA find on the far side of the moon? Before answering this question, let me remind you that our moon isn't the only one in the universe. If the moon were any closer to the Earth, its gravitational pull would be so strong that it would destroy our planet's atmosphere and turn the Earth into a barren desert like Mars. But the moon is in a perfect orbit that provides stable gravitational pull while leaving the Earth's atmosphere intact. Scientists know of over 200 moons in our solar system alone, and all of them are different. And now let's talk about the far side of the moon. Since the moon formed, it has been revolving around the Earth. It turns out that this celestial body has a core that's almost twice as large as the Earth's core. However, the mass of the moon is only 1/81st that of the Earth. That's why the moon is more dense than our planet. Scientists suggest that the moon's core could be made of iron. At the same time, our planet has been keeping its axis almost perpendicular to the sun. Because of this, the moon's rotation speed is synchronized with the time it takes to orbit the Earth. That's why we always see the same side of the moon from Earth. If the moon had a uniform density, it would be perfectly round. But the moon's core is liquid and its mantle is plastic. Its surface is much darker because there are fewer craters and rocks that reflect sunlight. But there's another reason. The far side of the moon is shrouded in mysteries, and scientists are doing their best to solve them. So, under the influence of the Earth's gravity, the moon flattened a bit at the poles and bulged in the middle. Write down in the comments below what you'd like to happen in your life. And don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't yet. That's why it looks like a squashed bowl. To find out more about the moon's core, NASA plans to launch a robotic mission there in the mid-2020s. The agency has already chosen a suitable site for the future landing. It's a crater located in the Sea of Tranquility. Maybe then we'll finally find out what's hidden under the moon's dark side. Some of them are so large that they're the size of entire planets. Our planet is also flattened at the poles and bulges in the middle. If the Earth and the moon had no atmosphere, they'd look like two barbells. But we don't live in a vacuum. Our planet's atmosphere is kept from escaping into space by the Earth's gravitational pull, and the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. So its soil is gradually blown away by the solar wind. Others revolve around more than one planet at the same time, and some moons are bigger than their planets. But our moon is the largest natural satellite relative to its planet. That's why it has a strong gravitational pull. The far side of the moon is a region of space that is hidden from the Earth, and no spacecraft has ever visited it until the National Aeronautics and Space Administration changed everything. Now we can admire the far side of the moon, thanks to NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. It was also the first spacecraft to discover water on the moon. However, scientists had serious doubts regarding the reliability of these results. That's why the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter had to perform an emergency landing near the crater, permanently shadowed by the South Pole, which is the loose top layer of soil and rock. And in 2020, NASA officially confirmed that the moon has plenty of water. Others can make the moon look like a huge green disk. Space fans immediately started wondering what these mysterious spots are, and there were many assumptions, but none of them turned out to be true. 2019, that day, NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter captured the first ever super blood dwarf moon. Supermoon means that the moon was at the closest point to the Earth in its orbit. Blood refers to the reddish color that the moon takes on during a total eclipse, and dwarf moon is simply January's full moon, which was named by the Algonquin tribes. So the combination of these three phenomena created a super blood dwarf moon. Besides, the magnetic field of the Earth protects the moon from the solar wind as if it were a shield. so the moon isn't as dangerous as scientists used to think. However, one side of the moon always stays away from the sun, which is why the far side of the moon is often called the dark side. The space agency's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbit, which launched back in June 2009, found evidence that the far side of the moon is rich in water. Scientists are still trying to find out how much water we're talking about, but it could be enough to meet all of humanity's needs for centuries. By the way, it's not surprising that the moon has water since all the planets in the solar system have it, except for Mercury. In fact, this is a figure of speech, since the illumination is the same as on the visible side. We just never see it because the moon is tidally locked to the Earth. In this video, you'll find out what secrets the moon keeps. What did NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter find on the far side of the moon that they didn't want to tell us? And most importantly, why does the moon have a dark side? Why is the moon called the dark side? In addition, until the 20th century, scientists believed that there was a huge iron-nickel core inside the moon, surrounded by a mantle made of dense rock and covered with a layer of solid rock. But what did NASA find on the dark side of the moon? But that's not all. The discovery of water on the moon was a sensation, but this wasn't the first time NASA surprised us. So what are those spots? They appeared on the moon because of a lunar eclipse. That is when the Earth casts a shadow on the moon. However, even such eclipses can't compare to what happened on July 8th. The next one will be on January 31st, 2018. Be sure to watch it. Now, let's get back to the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. It's been orbiting the moon since 2009 and sends us new photos every few days. But this isn't the only important discovery made by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. But why is the far side of the moon different from the visible one? If it weren't for this force, the moon would have flown away into outer space long ago. But what about the far side of the moon? Since the moon formed, it has been revolving around the Earth, and the tidal forces of our planet have slightly deformed it. It's the same with the Earth. Over time, this process leads to the fact that the moon's surface becomes rough and uneven. But the far side of the moon isn't just a copy of the visible one. In particular, researchers from the University of Cambridge used data from NASA's Gravity Recovery International Lunar Network Array, or GRIL, to create a map of the moon's gravitational field. But that's not all. Beneath the moon's crust, there could be a vast ocean of molten metal. The temperature in this magma reaches 500 degrees Celsius. And now it's time to make a wish. Look at the moon and make a wish.